The question of when a Sith apprentice can overtake his master and kill him is probably the biggest question that an apprentice ever asks himself in his entire life. An apprentice has an incentive to not kill his master too early because if he does, then he won't be able to learn the knowledge that his master took to the grave. But if an apprentice waits too long to kill his master, then precious time is wasted. Progress is slowed and the master may even replace the apprentice with another. From the beginning, Darth Sidious, like other apprentices, always intended to kill his master. In the Legends book, Darth Plagueis, Palpatine was Plagueis' apprentice for many decades, until the night that he was elected Supreme Chancellor, when he finally killed him. What finally convinced Sidious that it was time to pull the trigger? Why did he decide that he had learned all he could from his master at that moment? We get a glimpse of Palpatine's decision during a visit to Plagueis' personal moon of Sojourn. It was shortly after an assassination attempt against Plagueis, so he went there to heal and now rarely ever left the moon. It was here that Plagueis spent nearly all his time devoted to his life's passion of figuring out how to cheat death through the Force. Plagueis actually left so rarely that many people assumed he was dead. Even Sidious barely saw him, going years only speaking to Plagueis by holo. During this time, Palpatine basically trained himself, visited several Sith worlds, and spent considerable time studying the Sith texts and holocrons. He also trained Maul in secret on Mustafar, Tost, and Orsis. So when Palpatine finally visits Plagueis on Sojourn, he probably isn't surprised by what he finds. He finds the living quarters in shambles, some of the experimental subjects dead in their cages or cells, and many of the droids malfunctioning. Creatures from the surrounding Greel forests have invaded and taken up residence in the place, making nests in the turrets and devouring anything edible, while Plagueis, unwashed, emaciated, erratic in his behavior, let his droid give all orders to the guards. At one point, the guards had been ordered to install more than 200 holoprojectors in what had been the fort's armory, so that Plagueis could both monitor current events and immerse himself in historical recordings, some of which dated back hundreds of years. Basically, Plagueis was a recluse, beyond what Bruce Wayne becomes in The Dark Knight Rises. It's easy to see why Palpatine would see this as a weakness. Not only is Plagueis not training his apprentice anymore, but he seems to be wasting away and becoming crazy in his solitude. He's so obsessed with learning about the midichlorians that he had forgotten about the grand plan and the revenge of the Sith. The temptation to kill his master is clearer and clearer than it's ever been. But Sidious still doubts whether he had truly learned all of Darth Plagueis' secrets. In the book, it says Sidious knew that his own powers had increased tenfold over the decades, but he couldn't be certain he had learned all of Plagueis' secrets. His sorcerer's ways, as Plagueis' guards referred to them, including the ability to prevent beings from dying. Sidious sometimes wondered, was he a level behind? 2 levels behind? Such questions were precisely what had driven generations of Sith apprentices ultimately to challenge their masters. The uncertainty about who was the more powerful. That's what it was all about. The need to test themselves, to face the definitive trial, the temptation to take the mantle by force, to put one's own spin on the power of the dark side. There seemed to be mutual uncertainty between both of the Sith Lords too, since neither Sidious nor Plagueis made any move against one another. Arguably, Plagueis needed Palpatine more since the grand plan was largely left to Sidious while Plagueis brought the manipulation of midichlorians. The night that Sidious is elected Supreme Chancellor and Plagueis comes out of hiding, Sidious finally kills his master. Now that he was Supreme Chancellor, Sidious no longer needed the backing of his master, and by then, he had reasoned that Plagueis either didn't know how to cheat death or would never teach him. But he guessed that if he did not know how to do it, then the power would be made manifest during the assassination attempt. But when Plagueis died, it became clear to Palpatine that he may never have known how to cheat death in the first place. Again, since the book Darth Plagueis is Legends, all of this can change in the new canon. So what do you guys think about Plagueis becoming a hermit in his search for immortality? Kind of seems like a constant theme in Star Wars. Yoda, Obi-Wan, and Plagueis. Does it fit with what your image is of Darth Plagueis the Wise? If it doesn't, perhaps that's why Sidious felt it was time to kill him, since he no longer fit the mold of a Sith Lord. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Hit like if you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Until then, remember, the Force will be with you, always.
Now, fulfill